I would like to continue by talking about time remapping. For that, let me go ahead and delete these compositions. I'll select both of these and press the delete key. And there you go. Now, these files exist in your project files, so you can go ahead and import them if you wish. I'm going to be working with the quad02.mov file, which is just a QuickTime movie. And I'm going to create a composition with that file. And let me show it to you by doing a RAM preview. And there you go, it's just the movie of Boy on a Quad. And I'll go ahead and pause it. If you would like for the quad to move forward and then backward, you can do so with time remapping. You can also slow it down and freeze frame it. So with time remapping, you are distorting the timing of a group of frames within a layer. So let's see how this works. And by the way, if this layer had audio and video would remain synchronized during the whole time remapping process. Alright, so let's see how it works. I'm going to go ahead and select the layer. Just make sure it's clicked. And now I'll go to Layer, Time, Enable Time Remapping. So that's Layer, Time, Enable Time Remapping. I'm going to go ahead and just click on that. And immediately a couple of things happen in the timeline. Number one, we get a property called Time Remap. And we also get two keyframes, one at the beginning and one at the end of the layer. I want you to pay close attention to these numbers. These numbers right here, where my mouse is, are the time location of the CTI. You cannot alter this number. Once you start playing it, it's going to play at the frame rate of the composition, and that's it. You cannot slow it down, you cannot stop it, you cannot reverse it. It's kind of sort of like real time, right? And then we have the time remap timing. By default, both of these times always agree. 218 here, 218 here. It doesn't matter where I put the CTI, these two numbers agree, and that is by default. This number here refers to the timing of the layer. We can change that one. So, for example, if I place my CTI at around 201 and I add a keyframe right here with the add or remove keyframe at current time, that is the little diamond shape icon in the middle of the two keyframe navigator arrows, and I move in time to about 3 seconds, and now I copy this keyframe, Control or Command C, and paste, Control or Command V. Between this keyframe and this keyframe, I will get a freeze frame. Because even though real time is moving, the CTI keeps on moving, the clip's timing does not. So let me go ahead and RAM preview this. Freeze, and then goes again. You can time remap in the timeline like we just did. You can also do it in the graph editor or even in the layer panel. So let me go ahead and delete these two keyframes. And let's try time remapping in the layer panel. To open the layer panel, double-click the layer. There you go. If we scrub the timeline, notice that up here we have two CTIs. The bottom one, which represents real time, this is the CTI, and the top one, which represents the layer timing. So at around 5 seconds, I'm going to move this CTI backwards, and a keyframe gets added. Now at 6 seconds, I'm going to move it all the way forward. So in 1 second, my clip is going to go over a lot of its frames, so it's actually going to go much faster. Let's see that. Let's play it. And there you go. And of course, the clip arrived to its last frame before the CTI did, time-wise, so it's going to be a frame freeze at the end. I can also make my clip play backwards. I'm going to go ahead and delete these two keyframes. by switching these two keyframes so that it starts at the end and it ends at the start. And there you go. I'm going to go ahead and undo that. Control or Command Z. And of course, I can make this just go slow, but what is more important, I can speed ramp this. Speed ramping is when it starts slow and then it goes gradually faster and faster and faster, or the opposite, right? So I'm going to go ahead and select the words Time Remap. I'm just going to click on them. That is going to select both of these keyframes. Now I'm going to apply an easy ease to them. Remember, that is F9. And what happens now is that my keyframes will become Bezier. I can go now to the graph editor and I can play around with the timing of these keyframes. This is a speed graph. So my clip is going to go really, really slow, and it's going to gradually go faster and faster and faster. Let's go ahead and RAM preview this. Oh, one note here. If you're in the layer panel and you try to RAM preview, you will not be able to. To RAM preview, go back to the composition panel, and now you will be able to RAM preview. So it goes really, really slow, and eventually it just goes faster and faster and faster until it finishes. Again, this process is known as speed ramping. There are some presets, if you will, for time remap. Let me go ahead and delete the time remap here. If you go on the layer, time, you can not only enable time remapping, but you can time reverse a layer, you can time stretch, and you can freeze frame. If you choose to freeze frame, what is happening is that the time remap will be added to the layer. I'm going to go ahead and exit the graph editor, and it's just going to put a keyframe at that point in time, a hold keyframe, meaning no interpolation, which means that the whole layer is going to be just that one frame. I'm going to go ahead and delete that keyframe. The other options are layer, time, time reverse, which of course makes this play backwards. Notice the little diagonal lines here at the bottom of the layer. I will undo that, Control or Command Z. And finally, you can time stretch the layer, which means that you can give it a stretch factor or a new duration, which means you can play it faster or slower. I'm going to go ahead and click on Cancel here. You can also use time remapping to make the actions on the screen exactly match music or voiceover. For example, if I'm playing this layer, and at this point in time, a little bit before it happens, I talk about maybe the quad tipping over. Well, that hasn't happened yet, but I can add a marker there. So I'm going to go ahead and drag a marker from here and put it right there. I can go to the point in time where the quad actually does tip over, which is somewhere around here, and I can enable time remapping. Layer, time, enable time remapping. At this point in time, I can add a keyframe, and now I can drag this keyframe so that it matches where the marker is, and my action is going to be timed perfectly well. True that my clip is going to play faster between the first and the second keyframes, but that doesn't matter because many a times it's very minimal and most people don't notice. So whenever you need to distort the timing of a group of frames within your layer, using time remapping is a great idea.